Hello, everybody. This is Regan Archibald, and today I'm going to be talking about the emotional well-being aspects of the five elements. Now, this is going to be incredibly deep and it'll be a little philosophical, a little esoteric, so stick with me through this process, and I think you'll learn a lot because emotions are critical when it comes to health and healing. And what I've found is that when we can have very expressive emotions, when we feel alive, when we feel at peace, when we don't have our habitual patterns of negativity coming up and controlling our lives, that's when we can really start moving forward in our life process and also especially in our health. So when I talk about these emotions, the five elements in Chinese medicine, they date way back thousands of years. And the elements are indicative of how we are the microcosm of the macrocosm. We're a manifestation of the earth or the elements therein. And so what I'll be doing is taking you through each one of these five elements. And each one of these elements do relate to our meridian systems. So you can see it with this philosophy. There's this life force that runs throughout our entire being. It's that vibration. It's something that we have not quite named yet, but I think as technology gets more advanced, we'll soon be able to start mapping out these meridian systems in our bodies. And actually, there's been some studies out of Korea where they've been able to isolate where these meridians exist in your body. But right now, what we know is that each point has a specific electromagnetic field and a currency. And our bodies are basically, we're like batteries. We're like these positive and negative electrons. And so these meridian systems, we use acupuncture. You can use acupressure or other tools to stimulate these points and open them up. But when they're fully functioning and fully vibrating, that's when you'll have much better health. So let's dive into the five elements. So what these are is wood. That the wood, it relates to your liver, your gallbladder, your hormones. Your fire element, that relates to your heart, your small intestine, your pituitary. Your earth element, that relates to your spleen, stomach, and pancreas. The metal element relates to your large intestine, your lungs, your thyroid, and your water element relates to your kidneys, bladders, and adrenal glands. So if you look at these elements, there's different flavors, there's different directions. All these elements are designed to help us understand how our bodies are a reflection of the planet, of the universe. But if you look at these, there's different flavors of food that stimulate these organs. So like with fire, it's going to be bitter flavors, so red beets, chili peppers. With the earth, it's going to be more sweet things like pumpkins or corn. With the lungs, it's going to be more spicy, onions, scallions, jalapenos. With the water element, it's going to be more salty things, the sea urchin, the walnuts. And then with wood, it's going to be more sour things like limes and Brussels sprouts. And of course, we could go on. And we've got an entire podcast on this, so check that out. It's on the Go Wellness Radio episode. I believe it's about 20. So let's talk about the wood and the emotional component of this. So wood, this is when we are asserting ourselves. So metaphorically, what this means is the liver is like the general of the army. So the general is really assertive, right? The general says, all right, troops, we're going in this direction for this long. This is why. And the general of the army makes plans. I mean, you think of Ulysses Grant, and he said, hey, look, the only way we can get the Confederates is if we take this river. It's Christmas. I know. I'm sorry. We're going to travel all night on this river, and we don't know if it's deep enough. We don't know what it looks like, but it's the only way we can win. But he was very assertive. He was very direct, and they won the battle. But this is what your liver does for you. Your gallbladder makes decisions as well. So the gallbladder makes the decisions. The liver puts out the plan. So the liver is looking at the overall vision, kind of like an executive in a company. And the gallbladder is like a manager, somebody who puts in all the details, the day-to-day structure. So if you have a healthy liver and a healthy gallbladder, you're going to be able to look at life and plan it out, and then you'll be able to make decisions on this decision will help me move forward, this one won't. So I'm not doing that, I'm doing this. So that's why I tell all of our wellness members, when you start the program, the best thing you can do up front is make one decision only, and that decision is do the things that will support your health, your physical health, your mental health, your emotional health. So For those of you who are watching this or listening to it, great. You're supporting your health by learning how you can understand emotions better. So from a deeper perspective with your liver, it also helps you understand your life's plan, your life's process. So the emotions associated with the liver are anger. That can be one of the outbursts that we have. Everybody's experienced anger. If you're human, you've experienced anger. But the flip side of this is when your liver is really harmonized, that's when you're benevolent. That's when you really care for things. You have this deeper compassion. You see the direction that humanity is going into. So if you look at the wood element, green bamboo is the perfect symbol of wood because it's got this upward growth, this upward momentum. It's always moving in a specific pattern. It's an evolutionary pattern. It's not bifurcating in multiple directions. If you look at the banya trees, for those of you who've seen the banyas, they will plant roots and branches in multiple areas. I mean, a banya tree, I saw one in Hawaii on the Big Island, and it's massive. It must be about 50 feet in diameter, and it's got multiple branches coming down and growing into the ground. Now, that's what a lot of us do with our life. We can't figure out what path we should be on, and we don't trust deep enough in our own wisdom, and so we plant all these different holes, hoping that we can find the pure water and the pure path. But really what we want to do is find that one evolutionary process that takes us in a direction that helps fulfill our life, cultivate our dreams. Now this, if you're trying several different work paths or things of that nature, that's fine, but keep your overall groundedness, your values, your core ethics. Those need to be one set way. You need to be very true to those. And of course, you add on those as you grow. If you have troubles blowing up, if you feel frustrated a lot, you're unable to adapt to new situations, new circumstances, this is a sign of a liver imbalance, of a wood imbalance. If you have muscle tension, allergies, if you get emotional overwhelm, this is an imbalance in your liver. If you feel like you are an excellent planner, an excellent leader, if you have a very benevolent perspective, you are a person who's very kind and go out of your way to provide service to others, then there's a good chance that your liver element is very healthy. If you feel confident in your planning abilities, confident in your ability to look into the future and see how your choices today will impact that, that's a healthy liver. That's one of the beautiful things about that. And then if you have a healthy gallbladder, it will be able to say yes or no. These small decisions are leading us to the greater good. And if you look at it from a physical perspective, anatomically, your gallbladder is right there connected to your liver. So one of the things you have to look out for if you are a wood type, if you're imbalanced in this. Now, by the way, there's going to be a test that each one of you can receive that will go through all of these elements so you can see which element you're most dominant in. But I think as I go through this discussion, take some notes and think about which one of these are you most dominant in. But also get the test. Email me at regan@gowellness.com or talk to any of us at the office. So wood types can be ambivalent about structures and boundaries. So you love to have rules in place and organization. You're very good at that. But you can get very frustrated, and then you'll just push all of the new policies that you've written for your organization, you push them out of the way. So don't do that. That can be, it can lead to further imbalances. So some of the health tips for you wood types is put your higher values into the world through service to others. That's going to be the best thing you can do. Think about your core ethics, what really lights you up inside, and how you can be a force for good and leave a legacy. That's going to be the best thing you can do for your liver. Second thing is have clarity about what you want for the future and the direction of your growth. Not having a clarity for the future is one of the worst things you can do for that emotional health of your liver, of your soul, of your wood element. And then the third thing is stay flexible. and allow yourself to adapt to any circumstances, but also stay grounded in what you want in life. So make sure that you say, oh, wow, I had this goal and I thought the goal was what I wanted, but now that I'm further into this project, I realize it's not meaningful at all to me anymore, and so I need to scrap that project. So be willing to do that so you can keep moving forward. Now, those are some 3 health tips. Now, here's some action items I want each one of you to do, because you will find that if you don't really know what you want in your life, if you don't know what your purpose is, your deeper meaning, you're going to have a hard time finding emotional health and stability. So first thing is, what do you really want in your life? Just as a tree grows in certain directions, you'll want to have a plan. So write out your plan of what you really want to have in your life. Second thing, who do you need to forgive? Who are you holding resentment towards, and how can you release that? Because these resentments, the people we hold grudges towards, that's going to fuel the anger. And remember, the anger is going to cloud our judgment. It's going to cloud our benevolence. And then finally, inhale deeply and exhale with a deep ha 20 times. So ha, ha, ha. That's 20 times. That's Qigong to help move your liver energy. Massage your liver every day. Give your liver some love. Okay, so let's move on to the fire element. Fire is about loving ourselves. Loving yourself again. Think about when you were a kid, you just thought you're the coolest thing on earth. And then you started getting criticism. You started having people tell you you're funny, you're weird, you're odd. And I know you're weird and odd if you're listening to this. So I love you. And I know I am too. But it's a process where we get broken down in life. And then the fire element helps us come back to life. Fire is like technology. It's like computers. That's fire. It's our ability to connect is fire. But really, the fire is how your personality manifests. It comes through your heart. It's the deeper part of your soul and your spirit. In Chinese medicine, they call it your Shen. And Shen is that warmth that helps you create connections with other people and relationships. When your heart's healthy, these relationships, you can be vulnerable, you can be open in the relationships, even if you've been hurt, because we're all going to get hurt. That's part of life. And so the more you can heal your heart, the better you can move forward. So some questions to ask yourself: do you feel like you're lovable? Do you feel like you can find a good relationship? Do you deserve happiness? Because in your fire element, this is what we need to really cultivate this side of ourselves. The wood element you saw is about your individual plan, your overall connection to a purpose, a path. The fire is about making multiple connections. Now, joy can be the emotion that is very beneficial to the heart and the fire element, but overstimulation is where you can really burn out your heart quickly. And overstimulation, can be if you're gambling, if you have an addiction, if you're doing drugs or recreational activities like cliff jumping or really adrenaline-soaked things that you're addicted to do. That overstimulation will cause an imbalance in your heart. The Shen, which I talked about, there's 4 things that this does. It's about your consciousness and your spiritual awareness. The second thing is it helps you sleep deep and wake up rested. So how many of you, you wish you could sleep better? Well, one of the big things you may need to do is think about your heart. Think about those connections. The third thing is presence. How present are you? And this presence also allows you to create meaningful memories, because if you're not present, you're going to miss out on so many cool activities. And then finally, clarity of thought and proper timing. It's really interesting if you watch people with fire imbalances. They'll show up late to everything, and their timing will be off. They'll interrupt you in the middle of a conversation. They'll ask inappropriate questions, and they can really make situations very odd and kind of cumbersome. That's an imbalance in the fire and the heart. So if you are needing constant stimulation for your TV or electronics, you got a heart imbalance. Get rid of it. And then think about your pituitary. Your pituitary is what controls and manages all the timings for hormones, just like your heart regulates the rhythms of life and your rhythms of blood and the heartbeat that has the proper rhythm. Humor comes from the heart. So if you know people who have good sense of humor, they're very light about it. They tended to not take life too seriously, and they're just fun to be around and happy. That's a fire person. Fire persons, they can really jump into a conversation very well. They're unique. They can be authentic. They're open-hearted. They just have a happier life. So here's some health tips for your fire element, because it's very key to, number one, know what you want from others and what they want from you. So remember, fire is about creating relationships. If you're being seduced down several paths, you're going to break down that fire element because you'll have so many people who are injuring you along the way. The second thing is seek to bring a sparkle and joy into the lives of others, because fire types like to be in the limelight. They're really good in the spotlight, but a fire type are those who can be on or they can be off. So you may have one day where you're almost manic, and the next day you feel very isolated and lonely. The third thing is make a daily commitment to finding inner peace and contentment and meditate. So meditation is key, because remember, overstimulation can really put a burden on your fire. So here's a few action items. Make a list of the most important people in your life. Pick one person that you want to connect deeper with and write them an appreciation letter. I did this recently, actually in Volcano, and it was incredible, just the release that I felt as I wrote some letters. It just was very impactful, opened up my heart. Second thing to do, recognize when you're becoming cold in relationships by complaining. Now, these are how you show coldness. You complain a lot, you criticize, you blame, you justify. Then write those things out. And then finally, I want you to do a Qigong exercise. Open your arms wide as if you're giving someone a big hug and breathe love into your chest. Do that for 10 nice deep breaths. It feels so good. Okay, let's jump into Earth. Earth is about nurturing ourselves. So the Earth supplies, if you think about planet Earth, that's where we get our food from, our nutrients. The soil brings us so much richness. For those of you who crave sugar, you're not getting the right nutrients from the Earth. And so you need to start seeking out other nutrients besides just that quick energy surge. The other thing that allows us to nurture ourselves beyond eating is creating communities and groups. Now, these communities, that can really cultivate that earth energy in us. Some of the emotions of the earth, if you find that people are just worrying incessantly, this is an imbalance in the earth. Pensiveness, that worry, just overthinking and overanalyzing everything, that's an imbalance in this element. If a person has high levels of intelligence, they're able to train their mind not to worry so much. That's when you have a balanced earth element. So if you think about the mothering types, that's going to be an imbalance in the earth. Sometimes earth types, they're so mothering and caring, but they refuse to take care of themselves. They don't offer themselves any type of vacation, no breaks, no nurturing. But earth types are the best homemakers. They're great nurturers to the family. They're the ones in the office who are willing to do anything. They go the extra mile. But at the end of the day, you can tell that they're just frazzled. They're burning their candle at both ends, and they're unable to really take in the essence of life. And I see this, in Utah, there's so many amazing mothers. We have a lot of kids in Utah, and the mothers out there, they give, but there's no receiving, because giving and receiving need to be the same thing. So it's really key for you to unplug, unwind, give yourself a break from this worry, from this constant responsibility over everything. Responsibility junkie. Jim Stringham, my therapist for years, he's always said, don't be a responsibility junkie. That means you take responsibility for everything and everyone. But if you're a worrying type, then we've got to support this. So I'm going to give you some health tips here. Some of the health tips for the earth is carefully discern what needs are important and when those needs should be met. This means don't just jump around and meet every single need that comes at you. Avoid eating sugars. This is the second thing, or any types of foods when you're anxious or worried. What you'll find is you'll tend to seek out carbohydrates when you're not feeling completely grounded and stable. So earth types will put a lot of weight around their legs. They'll put weight on the hips. You'll get really round to try to ground yourself. And then the third thing is allow others to provide service to you while you provide a heartfelt service to them as well. So this is really helpful in nurturing your communities and nurturing others, your kids, your family, but you also have to know how to allow that to come back into your own life, and then make sure that your energy is very pure when you're building these communities and when you're nurturing others. And that will keep resentment from building up, because when resentment builds up, what does that affect? It affects our liver, and then you have a lack of energy flow in your overall body, especially in your spleen and pancreas, which is the organs that the earth relates to. So the spleen and pancreas are what help break down sugars. Obviously, the pancreas, the beta cells in there produce insulin so that you can take the sugar from your bloodstream and get it into cells. The spleen in Chinese medicine, I mean, that's part of your lymphatic system. It helps you get rid of any types of pathogens or waste product from your blood. But the spleen in Chinese medicine is how you actually extract nutrients, and it's how you digest. The spleen is what stokes that fire for digestion. Your stomach is the other organ that's related to your earth element. Stomach, if you have proper levels of hydrochloric acid, you're going to start burning food as fuel right when it hits your stomach. So if you have a healthy earth element, that's going to be a massive key for you to overcoming these things. So earth action items. Here's 3 things that we want you to do. So you can get very overwhelmed by emotions. Make sure that you get clarity with your emotions. So write them down. Write down what you're feeling right now, and give those emotions space by breathing with them. Too often in life, we run away from our emotions. We don't give ourselves time to really feel those emotions. I don't want you to worry about why those emotions are there. That will negate the benefits of this exercise. All you need to do is sit in your emotions and feel that pain, feel that hunger, the fear, the pensiveness, whatever it may be. Just feel it. And then the second thing is, what situation in your life do you need to stand up for yourself in? So don't just turn over. I want you to start standing up for yourself and creating boundaries. So write this out, and then have a conversation from your own point of view and the other person's as well, so you can understand what's going on in your life, why you're making these choices. And then finally, write down 3 things that you can do every day to nurture yourself, and go do them. All right, metal. Let's go to metal. This is about respecting ourselves. So metal types, you metal types are very present. You're very alert. You can be prompt and sometimes a little cutting. You'll have the emotional capacity to feel loss and then move on and then take in the quality and richness from the outside world in order to feel complete. But if you have an imbalance, then grief and loss can be overwhelming, and that will dominate the metal element. So what will happen is you'll start walking with your chest caved in, and you see this sometimes I see this in teenage girls where they're just really they don't have that self-esteem yet, and so they're not standing upright. Same with teenage boys or even adults. If we're not feeling confident, you'll notice our chest is really sunken in. And so confidence, what you'll see if people have healthy metal element, they'll stand with their chest upright. They will breathe deeper. They'll have more presence. That's all your metal element. So metal, the grief is what affects you the most. When you've had a death, when you've had a loss, a divorce, those things, they can really start to suffocate your metal element. So when you are inspired, that's the virtue of this element. So inspiration, you can be inspired yourself by reading writings, reading spiritual texts, or learning a new skill. You can also be inspirational to others. Metal connects us to the animal kingdom, and it's related to our bones. The bones is the one thing that a lot of us, we leave in the earth. That's our legacy, but that goes into those minerals in your bones. That's part of this metal element. Metal makes up about that 4% of our bodies that are all minerals. That's the metal element. And metal is deeper than the earth. So this is kind of like your self-worth, your sense of who you are. The lungs and the thyroid and the large intestine are all the organs that are associated with your metal elements. So when your lungs are balanced, you have a good immune system, no allergies, you can breathe very well. Your thyroid works directly with your lungs in orchestrating that spark. That's the metabolism. It gives your cells that fuel, that fire. And then your large intestine helps you decipher when things need to be discarded and let go of, because grief and loss is when we hold on to things too long. If you have that business that fails and you just keep holding on to that, or you have that relationship that didn't work and you can't let it go, that's emotional constipation. So we've got to let it go. The large intestine will help you do that, but the large intestine will also help you extract what's still meaningful. If that business needs to be fostered a little more, that relationship needs to be nurtured, then the large intestine helps you discern when you can start nurturing that again. All right, so let's look at some of the health tips. So 4 things: appreciate your work ethic and continually cultivate higher levels of competence and skill. Metal is all about working hard, but also working smart and using very high quality work. So appreciate that in yourself. Just give yourself a minute to, just really look at what you've done. The second thing, look at the beautiful things in life and the things that are very high quality. The lung element and the metal looks for those things that are very aesthetically pleasing. You see a building that's constructed very well. Take a minute to look at those things and find those every single day. Third thing is find deeper meaning and connection in life through a spiritual practice, religion, or some type of practice. I don't mind whatever it may be, but you need to find deeper meaning in that. That could just be reading a particular, some powerful book. There's so many powerful books, amazing authors out there, so find that. And then finally, the fourth thing is don't allow yourself to be isolated and cut off, because that sense of loss and grief will show up in your lungs, and that will start to impair your ability to feel inspired and be inspired. And you metal types, you like to isolate yourself. If things aren't going well, you tend to you bury deeper into the earth and hide. So don't isolate yourself. So here's some action items. Number 1, what compliments can you give to people you are associated with? Write those compliments down. Who are you going to give compliments to? How are they going to sound? Metal can be cutting, and you don't realize that if your metal is out of balance, you can just be cutting people all around you and making people feel crappy without even noticing it. So on a daily basis, just figure out how you can compliment people. Okay, second thing, examine your standards in work, hobbies, parenting, relationships, whatever, the most important things in your life, and see how you're performing on a scale of 1 to 10. And just, because this is about creating high quality work, high quality efforts, and everything. So give yourself a rating. This will help your emotional energy if you can start to see the areas where you can focus your efforts on. Number 3, write down something that feels heavy on your chest, like a rejection, a divorce, you didn't get invited to a party, whatever it may be, but write that down, and then you can release it. And then finally, this is a Qigong exercise. It's called Draw the Bow. Now, many of you know this. I've taught it to you, but you're going to act as if you have a bow in your hand. Draw it. Take an inhale as you draw the string back, and exhale as you release the arrow. Then switch sides and do it again, and do that 20 times. It's a great way to get your lungs open. Okay, and finally, the 5th element is water. This is reassuring ourselves. So water is about cultivating wisdom. This is your destiny. This is the path. It's called zhi in Chinese, but that's the Big Dipper ultimately gives us all this. It pours out this destiny, or this process of life that allows us to learn and cultivate wisdom, and the Big Dipper pours that destiny into our kidneys. Now, I've never physically seen this happen. I look at the Big Dipper almost every night, but that's how the story goes. Okay, so the emotions, if you look at the water element, the water can freeze up. It can be vaporized. It can be very deep and meaningful, and like a body of water, like the ocean. It can be wild and feminine. But when water doesn't flow freely, or when our emotions don't flow freely, that's when we get dammed up. That's when we can't transform and transfix, because emotions, just like water, they go through different cycles. and they can be very helpful. The emotions are, it's like a wheel that helps propel us into a direction that helps us cultivate wisdom and helps us understand ourselves and the process of life better. But when we don't allow those emotions to go from freezing water to flowing water to now it's being vaporized and we never think about it again, and then it rains, that's where we get imbalances that show up. So if you have proper wisdom, then you can see clearly through your fear that life is all about, it's a process. It's all about cultivating relationships, wisdom, and experiences. So fear is the biggest impediment to the water. That's the emotion that will show up most frequently. So if you have phobias, if you are startled easy, if you find yourself fearful of making any type of move in life, then that's an imbalance in your water element. Your kidneys and your urinary bladder, those are the two organs that are associated most closely with the water element. The adrenals are the part of the endocrine system. The adrenals sit right on top of your kidneys. And so if your adrenals, if you're pushing yourself, if you're using your willpower to run that marathon or do something, just forcing your way through life, then you're going to burn out your kidneys and your adrenals. And you'll burn out your jing, or the essence that we all have. So naturally, there's different processes in life. As we are toddlers, we go through one process. As we become adolescents, it's another one. As we become teenagers, as we become adults, elderly, the kidneys help us make the proper transition. So if you have back pain, excessive urination, weak knees, poor concentration, premature graying hair, a lack of sexual energy, these are all water imbalances. So water imbalances, one of the things that you want to look at is, are you getting the right minerals in? Are you getting healthy salt? Salt is specific to the kidneys. Just like salt and potassium and magnesium and calcium, those are all your main minerals and electrolytes. Those electrolytes create a spark in your body. That's what creates that charge for your meridian systems. So make sure you're getting proper mineral and electrolyte balance. That will help your lungs and your kidneys be more harmonized. If you're struggling to understand what your purpose is in life, then your kidney energy can help pull you back into that wisdom. So here's a few health tips. So taking risks can be very fearful. It can make you very fearful. A lot of us, we don't like to take risks. But one of the best things you can do for your kidneys is take a few risks. So these risks can be very helpful and supportive. But what you want to do, assignment number 1 for your water health tip, is take some risks. But before you do, just examine what the worst case scenario might look like. In every risk you take, look at the worst case scenario. Number 2, think about advice you'd give yourself 3 years into the future when you're looking at a fearful situation and wondering how to act. So think of yourself, let's say you're 35, and go say, you make the decision, you say, yes, I'm going to take that new job and I'm going to move. And so what advice would you give yourself 3 years into the future? So you put yourself into that community, into that new work environment. You love it. It's a kick-ass job. You're just learning so much. And you have this cool community you've created. You have these meaningful relationships. You have all the locally organic source foods. You're able to easily access those. And so you would give yourself that advice 3 years from into the future. So you'd come back to your present self and you'd say, hey, self, this is what's going to happen if you do this. And so that can be a very meaningful exercise. The third thing, surround yourself with running water. So have one of those fountains. You can get a fountain for $20, $10, whatever it costs. Surround yourself with running water. If you have a stream by your house, then go sit by that stream. And then the second thing is get one of those Himalayan salt lamps. They put out negative ions, and they can be very helpful for you water types. Okay, now here's some water action items. So find a situation that makes you feel frightened or anxious, and then visualize yourself stepping into that situation with complete wisdom, and then write down the overall outcome of that situation. So once again, you're facing a fear, but you're writing out what the outcome looks like. Number 2, take a piece of paper. Now this one's great. Take a piece of paper. At the top of the paper, you want to list problem, whatever problem it is. So if you have a problem, with your kids, then do that. On one side of the column, write a satisfactory solution. So a satisfactory solution, okay, we need better structure. So we're going to put bedtimes in place. We're going to be creating meals together. They're going to learn how to cook, whatever it may be. Unsatisfactory, then you put, we do nothing. The kids don't cooperate. I don't enforce any boundaries. So that would, I'm just giving you examples, but do this with all of your problems and fears, because it's the fear that keeps us from looking for the solution, because we live in a world of endless possibilities. And so as long as you can see those possibilities that exist, that's when you can really start to cultivate this wisdom and this beauty in life. And then finally, your last thing, the third thing, is take an Epsom salt bath every single night for 2 weeks and see how you feel. If you like it, keep doing it. It's one of the best ways to nurture your water element. If you live by the ocean, swim every single day in the ocean. So this is how you can cultivate emotional health from all the 5 elements, so that you can ultimately get all of your meridian systems balanced. You'll be able to get all your elements balanced, and you'll feel more emotional stability when you work on these things. So this can change your life. It's transformed mine. I've seen it transform many other people's. So take some time, listen through this again and again. Like I said, there is a test that goes through each one of these 5 elements. So simply send me an email, regan@gowellness.com, and I will send you that test. So you can see which element you're dominant in. Or next time you're in the clinic, just pick up the test from us. So have an amazing time, and I look forward to hearing how your emotional well-being is.